Hello, my name is Greg Anderson, and I'm a member of the Wisconsin-Illinois HO Rail Group based in Milton, Wisconsin. We are associated with the Milton Historical Society. They allow us, we have a space in one of their buildings. This is one of our annual train shows here at the Hedberg Public Library. This year, our theme is the depots of Rock County, Wisconsin. The Chicago Northwestern Railway and the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul and Pacific Railway of the late 19th and 20th centuries had multiple depots throughout the county. A few of them are still in existence. You have to search for them, but Edgerton Depot is still here with us. The express office in Janesville is still existing here. Unfortunately, none of the Beloit railway stations are around any longer, but Milton, Wisconsin, and the Milton Junction, Wisconsin. Also parts of the Footville Depot and the Avalon Depot are not on their actual location sites any longer, but they still exist in some form here in Rock County. We've been very fortunate to have the various historical societies in Rock County to help us with our finding photos and information about this year's theme. The Luther Valley Historical Society, which is based in Footville, covers the 6 southwest townships of Rock County. Kay Demrow is the archivist of that group. She has supplied us with just amazing photographs that are here displayed this year. We also went to the Clinton Historical Society and talked to Joyce Spahn. They have an old cobblestone house that was built in 1843 that houses their archives now. And we've worked with Edgerton, Beloit Historical Society, and the Rock County Historical Society based here in Janesville. So we're very grateful to have all these groups actually retaining the archives and photos and everything that you can go to. It's not online yet, but you have to do a little, rat race search. But we were very fortunate enough to have those facilities. And I certainly hope that everyone listening to me today or any day would check out these various historical societies, because they're a very dedicated bunch of people, and they need some help and they need some finances, as we all do, but that's what I'm here to explain today.
We're talking about changing ideas, and when we first, I think the first organizational meeting we had was at Alliant Energy Center in Janesville, and a lot of people showed up there, and I remember as one particular person asking if we were going to run DCC, which is digital controlled, what's the third word? Digitally controlled trains. And I think at that time, maybe none of us had any DCC trains.
That was an infancy thing.
Yeah.
It came out like 1985 and we started in 94.
Oh, okay.
So it was there, but it was very
New,
expensive in advance.
Yeah.
So there were several people that asked about that were headed in that direction. We weren't, and we didn't see them again because we just weren't going in the direction they wanted to go, or maybe they thought we weren't. Well, who knows what they thought? But that, they weren't comfortable with our group at the stage we were in. So ideas change now. We have mostly DCC. Greg, I think, maybe doesn't have any yet.
No, I've got 4 engines.
Oh, do you? Okay, yeah, I'm not paying close enough attention. So things change, and we kind of follow the trends, and that's how we do it. We have 16 feet, which is 4 modules of Milton Junction layout, how it was back in the day. And that doesn't travel anymore, that stays at the warehouse. A lot of the buildings, so anyway, when we started the club, a friend of mine, Jim Britton, who's a charter member, he and I built, he built 2 of those modules, so he had 8 feet and I had 2 modules. He did Milton Junction and I did Milton. And we hand built or scratch built all these buildings that are on that layout from photographs. And Jim passed on about 5 years ago or something in
2009, I think.
Yeah.
2008.
His grandson is here, so his grandson picked up where he left off.
If you're going to build a layout in your home, you have to have some kind of knowledge of carpentry, very basic stuff. But then you also have to be an electrician because you have to wire your layout. Even today, now that we have this digital control system, DCC, in which the track has a standard voltage on the track, like between 13 and 16 volts. You still have to do a bus line under that. If you're going to put in signaling or your switch maintaining, your turnout controls, that's all got to be wired too. I mean, that just says you don't take it out of the box and we're not that far yet advanced. We're getting there. But you have to be an electrician. You also have to be an artist if you're going to be doing scenery, trees, mountains, creeks, trestles, bridges, highways, whatever you want to do. When you talk about mountains or whatever, you do have to have some kind of sense of what you don't have to be the best artist in the world, but you want to you're trying to create a situation that looks realistic. At least, I mean, I try to do that. I'm not very good at it, but I try. And then, again, as Phil was saying, as a scratch builder of buildings, or if you're looking, let's say if you're going to do a specific city or location, like a barn or a house or whatever, there's all kinds of materials that are available to build that if you have a plan for it. And then you can have an actual scale on it. And the late Jim Britton did the Milton Junction Depot and the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Tobacco Warehouse. Beautiful, just beautiful scratch-built buildings, and even filled. And he had his Milton. He had the Saunders Lumber Company and
Milton House.
And the Milton House,
Yep.
and the old 1913 passenger depot. It burned down in 1913.
Nice thing about that, when Jim Britton built the Milton Junction depot, we went over and measured it, took a bunch of pictures, and then built it to scale. And on the Milton end that I did, that Saunders Lumberyard Feed Mill complex that was there, a guy I went to church with, Franz Lippincott, was still alive at that time, and his dad worked in that lumberyard. And so I built a lot of my buildings from photographs that the Milton Historical Society let me copy. And so when I was building these buildings, I get curious about, well, I wonder what the inside of that feed mill was like. And I go down and talk to Mr. Lippincott, and he told me exactly what those buildings were, because he tagged along with his dad. When his dad was at work, his dad worked there, and it was just across the street from where he grew up. And he would go over there with his dad, and he saw how this stuff worked. And I'm looking at this particular building. It's got a little lean-to on the end, and I said to him, I wonder what that was for. And he said, well, they parked a Model T truck in there. And who would ever know anything like that without, so when I have that building on my layout, I have a Model T truck sitting in that lean-to there. So you get it, so that's sort of how that works. And I want to talk a little bit about what Greg said about, we're talking about being an electrician and electrics. My grandson is 11, and of course most 11-year-olds are into phones, and he understands digital DCC stuff. He knows how to do this stuff because he learns it we have a couple of members that are really whizzes at this, and they teach these kids that. And then these kids teach their grandpa that. So I don't bother to even talk to these two guys. I let my grandson Julian talk to them, and then he shows me how to do it. And so there is of course a difference between electronics and electric things. So when you wire up, and these things have merged, and you have to know a little bit of this and a little bit of that to be able to navigate that situation. And that works great when you have a grandchild.
We're 20th century men living in the 21st century. It's amazing that the youngsters that come along that are just born now, and by the time they can talk, they're on their iPhones or on a computer. And that's, it's such a different world. It's a better world for us as model railroaders, because the precision of the models coming out now compared to when I started out is it's night and day. So
there's no point in trying to keep up with this for me. So it's a really evolving hobby. I think it's when you have that smooth commingling, if we can call it that, of
different generations.
It makes things a lot easier.
My name is Bill Alt, and I've been with the Whistle Club group almost from the beginning. I think I missed the very first meeting. Other than that, I've been around since then. Active part for pushing 20 years, I think it is, somewhere around that. But I've been interested in enjoying model railroading since my brother and I got our first. Well, actually, we acquired my older brother's American Flyer trains when we were younger, and we enjoyed those. Pretty rough with them, but we still ended up with them. I ended up with that American Flyer set a number of years ago when my parents moved, and I just this past summer gave it to my older brother now that he's a grandfather. So. My brother and I, had started out with the traditional HO train set. Put it on the old standard 4x8 sheet of plywood and had it in our basement for a while, and we enjoyed that. He kind of outgrew it, and I acquired his share of it, and I've had it ever since. When I joined the Whistle Club, they were actually meeting in the Wisconsin Power and Light office building in Janesville here, so that's how I got into it, because I worked there, and became an active member of the group. So originally I'm from Chicago, where there was trains everywhere in Chicago, so I've always had an interest in trains as a kid, and modeling opportunities came around, so I joined the club. And I learned a lot from the club, because from a modeling standpoint, you only learn when you're doing, and you only learn when you're surrounded by others who are doing. So I quickly built my first module, and the module is the traveling component for the shows. And I put that together and learned a lot on scenery details and operational details and things like that. And since then I've put that one aside. I actually let my children, my young boys, play with that. And I built another one. That's the one that I currently have. It's got a lot more in it, a lot more details in it than the very first one. And my theme is, now that I live in Wisconsin, I'm up in Evansville. Your typical small town in Wisconsin would have the depot, would have the lumber yard, would have the coal or oil depot, and downtown scenes and things like that. So when I built my current modules, they're in a pair, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to build a small town Wisconsin, and that's what I ended up with. They share an interest, I wouldn't say passion. They were an integral part of the shows for many years. They would be at the Janesville show, at the Madison show, at the Rockford show for many years when they were young. And they had fun operating the trains, and of course they're at the controls of it, and other kids would see that and have an interest in it. But they are all out of school, out of college, and employed, and in apartments right now, so they don't have the flexibility or the space to get into it, but they enjoyed it. And we would do a few train trips. And, when they were a lot younger, and the train still ran through Evansville, Wisconsin, we would go down to the park pretty often and watch them down there. So for instance, the depot is your standard stock wooden type of the depot. I got a little clever one time at the Madison show. There was a gentleman selling custom decals, so I had him create one, Ericsville. That's my one boy's name is Eric. On the other side of the depot is Alexville. So depending on which direction down the tracks you're looking for, you can see the name of the two boys. Couldn't really figure out how to get my daughter's name in the depot, so it ended up being Laura's Lumberyard, and she's got her own sign for that. So. Know a little bit about photography, and the magazines, the model railroad magazines, they're always interested in it. Actually, there's a section in the back, the last couple pages in the back of every issue is where they will publish anybody's model railroad pictures. And it's probably the first thing I turn to is go back there and I look at that and I say, well, that's a good picture. And my time and expense now is my home layout. And so I'm trying to finish one in the basements, and my ultimate goal is to continue to create the scenes for photography purposes. So I've had 5 pictures published in the Walters catalog, and I've had 1 published in Model Railroad magazine. So my ultimate goal is to finish my layout and then have the entire layout and an article published in the railroad. So. Most of my career has been with the Wisconsin Power and Light Alliant Energy, so I've put a few signs related to Ready Kilowatt, for those who've been around long enough to know who Ready Kilowatt was back in almost the turn of this, probably the 20s and 30s, 1940s, somewhere in that area. So again, try to bring it into something that as people go to the shows, visitors can point and say, oh, I used to have a car like that, or I remember the gentleman delivering coal down the streets to the various businesses or things like that. A lot of nostalgia. And it's always interesting to listen to those people who have actually experienced that. And you try to ask them questions. What was it really like? Only once when a person, they were, I want to say critiquing, but I took it as a positive critique, and I made a modification. But other than that, my module that I have at the shows has been pretty well set and has not been changed.
And I'm from Janesville, Wisconsin. I've been involved with the Whistle Group since 2008 or 2009. I have many different sizes of trains, but one of them is the N-gauge layout. So the N-gauge layout is it's interesting because it's very small. It's good if you are into running long trains, or you want to fit a lot of scenery into a small space. Some disadvantages is it's all very small, so it's very small little pieces and parts that you have to work on. It's sometimes difficult to get the track working, get the trains running smoothly. But overall, really in the last 5 or 6 years, the industry and the manufacturers of the train equipment have made it a lot better, and so it's really come up to par of the larger scales like HO and larger. So It's gaining popularity. It's the second most popular size, and I've had that layout. It's been in my possession for probably 6 or 7 years. My father built it in the early 90s after I took over his HO gauge layout. So I've personally had trains in my life almost since the very beginning. Dad had an HO gauge layout, which I took over, and then he built the N gauge layout. And then at home I still have HO gauge, and then I also have Dad's N gauge layout since he's moved a couple times in the past few years, and so he doesn't really have space for it this time. So I'm the caretaker of it. I haven't changed it one bit since he had it. My 4-year-old son loves running it, so it's good. I like it. Like as an example, I tried switching out some of the couplers that couple between the cars and the engines and whatnot, and it's extremely difficult. So I had to I have good eyes, no glasses, and I still had to get out a magnifying glass, and I had to rig up a special thing to hold the car, and then I had to use a little tiny pair of tweezers to try to change it. HO gauge is not like that. You can do everything with your hands, and even if your vision isn't quite as good, you can usually muddle through it. So it's much more difficult. Yes, there's one size smaller, it's called Z, and that's very tiny. It's maybe 2/3 the size of the N gauge. But they run into the same problems. It's very difficult to keep it on the track, and it's also difficult to have a realistic scale scene because everything is so small, the people are so small, and it just, a vehicle or a car or something will look out of place next to the train because it's hard to get the size right. I do almost everything myself. So I've done my carpentry work. I'm no master carpenter by any means, but I'm good enough at it to get the job done. The electrical is probably my strong point. So as far as wiring and the digital computer control and everything, I've mastered most of that. That might come sort of naturally to me since I work in information technology. So technology is just easy for me. I'm one of those lucky people. And then I don't do much, I don't paint my own equipment. So I'll buy it from someone, or if there's something I really want, I'll occasionally pay to have something custom painted, because that's just not my expertise. So I really enjoy running trains and building the layout and doing scenery. So those are my favorites. So I do that on occasion. I don't do it so much anymore because I've purchased more of the actual remotes that work with my system. Basically the way it works is the computer interfaces with the controller for the layout, and the phone then talks to the computer, and you can You can do everything you can on a $200 remote control that you can on a free smartphone app. So if you don't, if you're running short on, like if you have more than one person running trains, and you just need a quick, it's called a throttle, so that you can run your engine. You can put it on the phone. Technically, I can go anywhere in my house, so I can go upstairs and be sitting in front of the TV and run the train, but you can't really see what it's doing. So I think the industry's been pretty stable. There hasn't, over maybe the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a much bigger shift from kits to pre-built, ready-to-run equipment. It's also the same thing for track. Instead of track that you have to take home and nail down and ballast, there's plug-and-play track that has ballast and everything right on it. So the portions of the industry are shifting towards more of the ready-to-run, take it out of the box and play with it. Some of the the more advanced computer control and the digital command control, those that really hasn't changed much in 15 years. It's pretty much the same technology that it's been.
Okay.
There's been a lot more sound and onboard electronics in locomotives and now in even cars. So that's been an interesting change. But it's not, it's sort of just, in my opinion, those are nice to haves. I don't need my caboose to make the clickety-clack sound as it rolls over the track because it sort of does that already anyways. 10 years ago I would have told you that I just model current day. So I didn't pick a particular exact area, it was just sort of an overall modern looking layout. When I built my new layout, which I've been working on for 7 years, it is specifically of a general area, and from a time perspective, it's more related to a railroad that used to exist than it is to a particular time. So the railroad existed from the 1800s until 1988 when it was bought out by the Union Pacific. So my time sort of stops in 1988 on my layout.
Okay.
So, but prior to that, it is a very broad range of equipment. I run things from the early 1900s to the 1980s. Model railroading really is something for everyone. Whether you just like watching trains go by, or you like painting and building kits, or you like doing scenery or carpentry or any of that. So because it's so broad, it really is something for almost anybody. Because you look at our group, we have people who work at General Motors their whole life. We have carpenters, bus drivers, IT people. It's just this very diverse group of people in our group, and just a testament for how the hobby can speak to anyone.
Okay.